Do you ever feel like you just don't have the time to sit down and read the news every morning? Sometimes things get so hectic you can't even scroll through your feeds while you're trying to get ready. A new podcast from Boise State Public Radio has you covered. I'm George Prentice, and I want to invite you to check out The Connector every weekday morning. You can get up to speed on all of the Idaho news you need to start your day without ever interrupting your morning routine. All you have to do is hit play. That's The Connector from Boise State Public Radio. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. More Idaho Matters right now. Idaho's public lands are under threat from development and climate change and the push to privatize some of that land, putting wildlife habitat and outdoor space at risk. Conservation Voters for Idaho is one organization that continues to push to protect these lands for future generations. And tomorrow, they'll be holding a rally at the State House to defend those lands. So joining us now to talk more are Alexis Pickering, Conservation Voters for Idaho Executive Director, and actor Chance Rush, who will also be taking part in tomorrow's rally. I want to welcome both of you to the show.
Thanks, Gemma.
Alexis, let me start with you. For folks who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about Conservation Voters for Idaho.
Yeah, thanks, Gemma. So CVI was established about 20 years ago, and we fight for clean air, access to clean water, and public space. So we're a nonprofit organization that advocates for all the different types of folks that live, work, and breathe in Idaho. And obviously, public lands is a huge part of that. And so we're really proud to be organizing folks to talk about the threat that's coming our way. Because, I mean, this isn't a new threat at all, and we've beat it back before. But we know that things are different now. So we're really excited to have Chance here and educate folks about why folks should be concerned and why we need their help protecting our public lands.
Chance, a lot of folks may know you from your role in the Oscar-nominated movie Killers of the Flower Moon. What some people may not realize is your role in helping to promote and protect Native lands. Can you talk about why this is important to you and why you do the work that you do?
You know, it's very important because, number one, Idaho is a very beautiful state. I always enjoy my time in Idaho, whether it's working with the Nez Perce community, the show band community, and I don't want to leave any other tribes out, but them are two communities I definitely hit up a lot when I'm up in the Idaho area. It's just a beautiful place, beautiful scenery, and it really brought a lot of perspective into the work that I do. Believe it or not, my very first speaking engagement ever was in Fort Hall, Idaho. And when I got up there on the lands of that community, I realized that, anything and everything that you do, there has to be a purpose behind it. There has to be a cause. And I think that's one thing that I'm very grateful for in this rally that we're doing, this Saturday, is that you have to have a cause for anything that you're doing. It's not about the money you make. It's not about your status. It's not about, the ladder that you can climb. You have to have a purpose. And it's kind of interesting, like you shared a second ago about, the movie that I was in. Obviously, it took place in the 1920s, and it had to do with oil and Indian land. And I really enjoyed playing that role because of the family and because of the person that he was. He was Bill Stepson was a person that was truly about giving, helping, supporting. And when I was invited to be part of this rally that's taking place Saturday, was a big part of that is you have to have a cause for what you do. We all do, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I love Idaho. I'm excited about coming back up to Idaho. Idaho is a place for families. Idaho is a place for growing. Idaho is a place for learning. And we all have to play our part, And so anyway, that's why it's so important for me to be back up here is because, it truly is about protecting Idaho, taking care of Idaho, and having accountability for your state.
Mm-hmm. Alexis, can you talk to us about how crucial and popular public lands are. And I ask this question because I think maybe the average Idahoan might be, well, we recreate here, we love our public lands. I really think there is a disconnect, though, from people who live in the West to really people in power on the East Coast. And I'm not talking about whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, because I think it happens on both sides, where there is a true disconnect when you have not spent time in these incredible public lands.
No, you're absolutely right, Gemma. And it's a great question. I think there's a couple different prongs to that. I think for those that don't know me, I mean, I grew up in Kuski, Idaho, which is in Idaho County up north. And I think part of the challenge is, for those of us that are from Idaho and grew up here, we oftentimes we take them for granted almost because they're just there, right? We don't even know that they're public lands or that they're national public lands or who maintains them, right? And we grow up hunting and fishing or going in and getting that Christmas tree or heating our homes with the wood, right? There's all of that. Or maybe we work for the Forest Service or the BLM. I myself was a contractor, wildland firefighter for several seasons. And my first job out of high school was brushing Forest Service roads with my dad as a small business owner. So, I mean, public lands in Idaho, I mean, most folks in the East Coast don't know what that is. They don't know what that feels like until they physically see it. And I think most folks that are from here don't realize that that's not something that they understand and that we actually have to work to defend it. Because right now, folks again that are not from here, out of state billionaires, what have you, special interests, they're looking at our federal lands as cash cows basically now. And, a way to exploit and cash in on that. And it's open season, no pun intended. So, it's up to us to describe and articulate and talk about our love for public lands and why they are priceless, right? They're obviously huge economic drivers to our state. It's the second largest economic driver behind agriculture. It is protecting public lands is wildly popular amongst all Idahoans across the state. And it's one of those few issues that unites us, right? And so it's really about all of us talking about why public lands mean something special to you, what's at stake for you, if that was to go away, and not just for you, but also for your children and your children's children, right? Once they are gone forever. And we've already seen what that's been like with, the Wilkes brothers up in Valley County, closing off access to thousands and thousands of public land. And so we know what that's like. And I mean, I would urge folks to hold, just like Chance said, our electeds accountable, our Idaho leaders saying, we can't give up another acre. We've already lost so much. And just another quick tidbit, Gemma, too, is, we obviously have federal public lands, and that's what's at stake here. We also have Idaho state lands that are managed for very different reasons. And since our state's inception in 1890, the state has sold off a third of those lands. Wow. So it is absolutely in the realm of possibility, and it will happen because we just can't afford to maintain these lands by ourselves.
And Alexis, I mean, it seems that public lands have never been so popular, in particular since COVID, right? When everyone was getting outside and so many people have really discovered public lands who maybe had not before. With that said, I think there's an argument to be made that they've never been more under threat than they are now. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say this is the scariest point in our public lands defense work, I'd say, in our entire history. It's not a new fight, but, for those of you that haven't paid attention or seen it, Utah filed a lawsuit against the federal government back in the fall of 2024, suing the federal government to say that they deserved to take ownership of those lands within Utah. Luckily, the U.S. Supreme Court said you do not have standing and dismissed that case. But we know that Utah is going to refile. There's been legislation in Montana, Wyoming, Utah, and other states trying to create mechanisms for states to somehow wrangle these lands from the federal government. And we have special interests at the federal level, like I said earlier, that have something to gain by convincing our regular Idahoans that somehow they're better off with us, selling these off and losing access forever. So it's kind of this perfect storm of, multiple states are working together on this. We've got federal special interests also looking at this. And there's a ton of things that, folks are distracted, right? There's a lot of things going on. And so I think it's easier for folks to tune out as well, like kind of that apathy and complacency that, oh, they've done this before, they're not going to win this time. And I think that that's what I'm also really concerned about is, folks just sitting it out and not realizing that actually we've never been this close to losing our public lands like this.
Chance, what will your message be at tomorrow's rally?
It's about Idaho. It's not about, either party. I don't want to get political here. It's about Idaho. It's about the ownership of Idaho. It's about the accountability and to play your part, to be a vessel. I don't care what side of, the line you stand on or sit on, but, fight for the human race. Anytime when you think of public land, you think of, who we are as the people. And, so many, the great state of Idaho has done so much to build up its state. And there's a lot to lose the more that you give up public land. There's a lot to lose. So that's what my message will be, is to make, to keep Idaho affordable to live in, to keep Idaho affordable to move to, to keep Idaho a place where families can visit, whether it's, from the East Coast or the West Coast, show that Idaho is a beautiful place and the ownership is in the people and not in a political party.
Alexis, before I let you two go, tell us more about tomorrow's rally and how folks can participate.
Yeah, thanks, Gemma. So we're going to have a really big day tomorrow. We've got folks coming from all across the state. We've got, backcountry horsemen, motorized folks, hunters, anglers, folks that just love to backpack, that type of thing. Just, again, trying to unite all these users in that shared value of protecting and keeping our public lands in public hands. So we're going to have speakers kick off at 11, and we're going to have folks that represent and work in our waters. We're going to have an amazing speaker that is a falconer. We've got a hunter and fisherman. We've got Representative Monica Church, she's the granddaughter of Cecil Andrus and Frank Church, who have, huge roles in the public landscape that we, care to love and have to, and hopefully protect for from here on out. And then Chance. So we're really urging folks to come out. We're also not just coming together and sharing these stories, but also urging folks to do something about it and act. And that action is to urge our federal delegation to sign on to Montana Representative Ryan Zinke's bill, Keep Public Lands in Public Hands. And it's a really solid piece of legislation. It's bipartisan, and it's the easiest through line in protecting our public lands. And so far, our delegation has not signed on to it. And just yesterday, Senator Crapo was on the record saying he is all for transfer, which is the other way to say privatization. So we've got our work cut out for us. And we need to urge our delegation to not abandon their legacy for support for public lands. And it takes all of us to do that.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for taking time. We've been speaking with Alexis Pickering, Conservation Voters for Idaho Executive Director, and actor Chance Rush. We've been talking about public lands and tomorrow's rally that will happen at the State House beginning at 11 a.m. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.